Hey everyone, welcome to the FilmIn5D podcast, the third episode of our brand new podcast. It's not brand new anymore, it's over a month old.
Wow.
Officially. 1 month and a day.
Nice.
So what's been going on? What's up?
Recently,
Seen any movies?
it's
It's a film podcast. I don't care about your personal life.
that is not cool. Fine, I did not see any movies. Screw you.
Oh my goodness. Well, a movie came out on Blu-ray last week. Do you know what movie that might be?
The one about space or something? Like
Oh,
a galaxy?
What's that you have there? What's this? Tell me what this is. This little guy.
It's a piece of plastic. I don't know.
Come on. No, what is this?
It's
For you got to describe it for the viewers listening
okay. Let me see.
on
this
audio.
is. What? It looks like a spaceship in clouds or something. Oh, and it says collectible film cell
Yes.
IMAX.
So this is an IMAX film cell, like an actual, the strip of film or the film that goes to the projector. This is a piece of it.
Does everyone get different pieces?
I believe so.
Wow.
I don't know that this is the original, but
No way. I doubt it.
it's IMAX, even like an IMAX film is expensive. Hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever, just for the whole roll of film, like even if it is a duplicate. So got a little piece of history there. So what's cool about this is actually the size of an IMAX frame, if you will. So if you think about like the full frame, it's about a quarter of that size. So you're talking like 1080p. Thing. Like if full frame's 1080p, IMAX is 4K. So like that's kind of like the size difference, because the full frame is 36 millimeters across. This is 70 or 72. I think it's 70, obviously 70 millimeter. It might be 72 though. It's weird how they kind of do the math. But yeah, so that's cool. Movie came out, one of my top 3 movies from last year, which you have yet to see.
Last year, really?
Yes, November.
Wow, it's been that long.
Yep.
Makes me kind of sad.
Well, it's only been like 4 months. So I made a trailer. Did you see it?
I watched some of it, despite the warnings of spoilers.
Right. It's my first ever film trailer that I've made. Like took the whole 2.5 hour long film and picked out the parts that I liked and told the story that I wanted to tell, which I wrote on my blog, which is on filmin5d.wordpress.com. You can check out my blog. I did a blog post about it, kind of some of the challenges that I had making this trailer. And the biggest one was probably the fact that, unlike the editor of the real trailer that gets released in theaters and on TV, I don't have access to all the shots with no music overlay. I'm just taking the movie and trying to make, so it ends up, half the trailer ends up being pretty silent, just music based. And the music kind of goes along with it, and I picked out one of the songs that I like, and it kind of told a story that I wanted to tell. But it definitely would have been a little bit easier to tell my story, especially at the end of the trailer where I wanted a specific line. I just could not. I tried to edit the audio, I tried to cut out the music, I tried to do anything. Wasn't happening.
I actually might have a solution to that.
What's that?
Like if you have the song, whatever, in the background, right? Like if you have the soundtrack or something, you can take that and there's a program that'll kind of like, I don't know exactly, it's kind of like inverse the waves or something. It'll cancel out the song so you get just like the audio.
I mean, it'd be interesting to try out, but I do know the tricks to do it, and it wasn't doing it for me.
Oh.
But I mean, I could see it maybe where it just depends on the song. I mean, the songs in Interstellar was a bunch of chords all over the place, so it's kind of like interfering, going. It's all about the hertz. So like if the voice of the actor is at like 9,000 or whatever, I don't know what the average. I think the average is between like 12,000 and 6,000.
Yeah, a little bit over 9,000.
So if it's over 9,000, then you're gonna have some trouble trying to if the music's kind of along the same hertz frequency, I guess. Same difference, whatever. But that was cool. So check out that trailer. I released it on YouTube and did a blog about it. It was fun. I'm gonna do another one. I've been getting some requests to do other ones. It did not go viral. I'm sad about that because I was pretty proud of what I did. I was on a bit of a time crunch because I decided, a couple days before, hey, I want to do this. And then I was like, shoot, I got to release it because the thing's coming out and Blue's coming out on Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
So I only had like the weekend to work on it. And spent a good like 10, 12 hours doing it. It was a fun challenge. Anyways, so before I go forward, usually I give a brief rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to do a bit of news and rumors, which I should actually pull up a site for that because I totally forgot. And we're going to be doing a bit of news and rumors on Canon, actually. It's coming out with some new super high...
Canon? What? What? What is this?
I know. Well, there was no Sony news this week, no Panasonic news, so I figured I'd do Canon because they're coming out with some cool new things that obviously then Panasonic and specifically Sony's going to come out and top, basically. So Canon's going to innovate and then Sony's going to immediately come out with one that's better.
Okay.
Because that's what they do. And so more specifically what I'm talking about with the 5DS is the high megapixel count. So right now, like the Alpha line has a 36 megapixel camera, 36 million pixels. These cameras, these new ones coming out, are 50. So we're talking like 8K. Like, I don't even know what that translates to. I want to say it's like over 10K, over 9,000. I don't know. I'd have to do the math on it. But so those are going to be coming out. We're going to take a look at those. And then I'm going to talk about Cine lenses and what makes them special versus just photo lenses. I did a blog on this. You could check it out, FilmIn5D.wordpress.com. For my newest episode, which was about the 28 to 135 millimeter Cine zoom that I showed you guys last pod, I did an entire episode on it. Not really a review, just kind of like a, what makes this lens the must-have for the A7S compared to all the other ones. And one of the things I covered briefly was cinema lenses and like how it's a cinema lens and what special features it has. But we're gonna go into depth about the different primes and zooms and what makes them cinema lenses and why they may or may not be worth the extra cash. And then I'm gonna do a brief tutorial just on three-way color correction. Just want to show you guys. I use three-way color correction at work all the time. I use looks while I'm working on short films and stuff. But I've always kind of showed my tutorials with looks. So I kind of want to just show a brief, kind of what's fun and fast about three-way color corrector and how it's built in right into Premiere and people can just use it without spending an extra $400 on plugins. And then you're going to talk about Illumi Room. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, something like that. It's cool and new.
Oh, I'm so that just like pumped me up for your little thing.
I'm glad.
And then we're going to play my favorite film card game, which you may or may not have played before, but we're going to play it. We're going to see how we do. It's just a game that you guys might have fun watching us play it. It might be a good laugh, but I want more people to play this game who are interested in movies and want to kind of be on top of their game when it comes next time they're at a party and playing, whatever film game. So it kind of keeps you sharp and kind of improves your skills when it comes to film knowledge. Kind of. It's an interesting game. So let's start it off. The quote for today is, "Murph, I love you forever." And it has nothing to do with the theme, because I couldn't really find a theme for this week. But Interstellar came out, and it's my favorite quote from Interstellar.
Wait, I thought your favorite quote was another quote.
No. This is my favorite quote. The other quote made sense for the first episode of the pod, which was, what was it again? Oh, maybe we spent too much time trying to figure this all out with theory, which was for us and not doing the pod forever. So, yeah. Murph, I love you forever. Oh, there they are. Oh, I don't know if they could see that on camera. It's probably all blown out. But Murph and her dad, Cooper. It's probably one of my favorite quotes. So anyways, that's the quote for this week. Let's take a look at what came out this weekend. Rotten Tomatoes. We use Rotten Tomatoes for this. That's like the official. Which Rotten Tomatoes can be good and bad. I feel like if it's like, do I want to go spend money? Do I want to go offer money to go to the theaters and see this movie? It's good for that. It's like if more than half the people liked it, then it's probably worth your time. If 4% of the people liked it, then you probably shouldn't give them your money, because then they won't keep making those stupid movies like, was it Insurgent, last episode that we were talking about?
Oh, yeah. Something like that.
So what do we got here? What's the first one that's catching your eye?
Furious 7.
Which we talked about last time with the arc shots. Remember those? 81%. For a 7th movie in a trilogy. Just step back and think about that. It's the 7th one. Most of the same actors cast is back. I mean, the stories are what they are, but people just love the cinematography, the racing, the acting. Like, The Rock's in it, and he's awesome. Vin Diesel, one of my favorites. 81% though for a 7th movie. Just think about that.
I'm seeing 82. Oh, really? Does yours say 81?
So yours went up. Let me refresh it on my screen. Whatever.
Wait, do you know what Interstellar is at right now? Because I think that might be higher than Interstellar.
It is higher than Interstellar.
Yeah.
That's like,
what is that? What is that?
I don't know. We're not going to get into that because we're talking specifically about what's coming out. Okay. But maybe we can do a topic on that. Remind me next episode about why I think that happens.
Well, just a quick aside. I read some people saying that Furious 7 was better at accomplishing what it set out to do, as opposed to Interstellar.
What? Who said that?
People on the internet.
Wait, Interstellar specifically?
Well, because somebody brought up the point that Interstellar had a lower Rotten Tomatoes
That's the one
score.
thing I have a problem with Rotten Tomatoes. It's so subjective. Like, I see, like, for instance, let me pull it up without getting too sidetracked. A movie like, what was the one that won Best Academy Award in 2007? No Country for Old Men.
Oh, I love that movie.
Mm-hmm. Right? Remember who's in that movie that you really like?
Sugar or whatever? I don't.
Javier Bardem.
Oh. Well, that's the name of the character, isn't it?
So 93%. Now, I mean, this review's changed. I remember when I first saw this review, it was like 200 fresh, 1 rotten. So it was at like 99%, 99.5%. I looked down at the 1 rotten. Like, you know what it said? It said, well, this is probably one of the most overrated movies of our decade. Oh, so it's a rotten movie because it's overrated, so you give it a rotten. So that's the one problem I have with the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like, is it a good movie or is it not a good movie? Like, and a lot of them are kind of super subjective and say things like, it's overrated. Even though I enjoyed it and it might have been good, it was overrated, so it's rotten. And so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But generally I use it for what we're doing in this segment is, do we want to go see Furious 7?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's do one more so I'll do one. It Follows. Have you heard of this movie?
I have now.
You'll be surprised. It's a horror movie and it's rated 95%. You have to go through all the recent horror movies released over the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. You will probably not find any 95%. I would say the best horror movie I've seen in the last 10 years, last 5 years, was The Conjuring. And let me just look that up real quick.
What about Cabin in the Woods? Is that...
It wasn't really a horror movie. I really liked it, and it actually got really good reviews as well. But it's not a horror movie in the sense that, so 86% for The Conjuring. So good movie. Obviously, this isn't all accounted for yet. It could go down further, but let me look up Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods was a special movie for me. You saw that, right? Chris Hemsworth playing the jock guy, and it was just 91%. So it's a good movie, but is it a good horror movie? It's not really in the horror. It's kind of a spoof. So, but apparently, It Follows is one of those movies that if you see it in theaters, you will not want to go to sleep that night. So I don't want to know what the idea is that they implant in your brain, but the idea that is when you go to sleep, something's keeping you up. Something like, I don't want to know what it is because I want to go see it. I'm going to see it this weekend. But there's something that just some idea that they use in this. And all great horror films have this one singular idea that's like, usually it's like a doll or something, whatever. There's gonna be one specific thing that you're just gonna be like, whatever, looking over your shoulder.
Well, I mean, call me crazy, but I think the idea is that it follows.
Based on the trailer, but I think there's something more to the thing that follows.
Well, I haven't seen the trailers.
Oh, before I forget. So we're still looking for feedback. This is our 3rd episode. We're kind of trying different segments every week. We have kind of the usual ones, and then we're kind of trying to mix it up. But any kind of feedback you guys can give us. We're done with this segment. Briefly, Adamus. They make the Shogun, which we are using to record in 4K right now.
Yes.
I would just like, as a PSA, to say that they are a great company. These are the batteries that shipped with...
Oh,
come on.
There goes our movie.
Your props are killing us.
Hey, I did not touch it last, okay?
So this is the battery. I don't know if you can see it, how big it is. It's, it feels... It's about the size of a GH4 battery. And when I first got it, I got a second one, and it was like $50. And I was like...
$50?
Yeah, I was like, man, like... And then I find out that I could actually... With this battery, I can only record 4K for like 30 minutes straight. So, not, for a thing that's meant to record in 4K, I wasn't too happy. And then randomly in the mail, probably about a week ago, I get this bad boy. I mean, if you look at it, it's what? 3 times the size? Or double the size? I don't even know what the actual... So this one's 2600, 5200, so double the size.
Wait, what do you mean randomly in the mail?
So I get in the mail, I'm like, they sent me, and then they're like, oh, thanks for being one of the initial customers, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for taking leap of faith and buying it, pre-ordering it. Here's a better battery. So they gave me a battery that's twice the size of the ones I had. So this replaces the two that this one that it came with and the one I bought. And then the one we're actually using right now is double the size of this. But this is a high quality, battery made specifically by them. So cool. Just want a little PSA. That's how you get good customer reviews right there. You do stuff like that. You surprise your customers.
Yeah, so send us more stuff.
I mean, they shouldn't have released it with this battery. Let's be honest. It was a bit frustrating. The fact that they owned up to the thing of like, hey, like here's a free battery. So now I have basically triple what it came with.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Moving along. Quickly, I don't know how much time we have right now. I want to talk about the 5DS. Let me see if I can pull it up on Canon Rumors. Canon Rumors is a site that I don't go on much anymore for reasons I think known by most by now. Okay, so I'm just going to pull up a picture. Let me see some stats actually.
You said the 5DS?
It's called a 5, so it's like the 5D, like what I had, but the S, like the Super. And it's not going to be a film camera. I mean, the thing that we've learned from the A7S is only 12 megapixels, and therefore it actually uses every single pixel. Well, it chops off the top and bottom for video format, but it uses every pixel for pixel, and that's why it's able to be good in low light. There's no things like aliasing or moire on patterns like this. So with the 5DS, you have 50, and you have to go from 50 and scrunch it all the way down back down to 8 for 4K or whatever. I'm not even sure if it can do 4K. So it's 50.6 megapixels. That's a lot.
What do you even do with that many pixels?
It's landscape photography. It's landscape photography converted into a nice painting that you go and see at an exhibit. Big, size of a wall kind of painting, or billboard, kind of stuff. Really, I mean, honestly, you don't see the pixels regardless, like even at 36. So it gets more detail. Let's say that. So it gets more fine detail in the grass and the mountains or whatever. I mean, I don't really see any other use for this. It's really cool, but I don't know how expensive they're going to be. Like, they haven't come out with any of that information, I don't think. Let me just double check that real quick. What do you think about, would you use a camera that was that big? I mean, the file sizes alone, the raw file size is going to be like 20 megabytes each, one photo. So if you leave your finger down for too long, you end up with 20 photos. Do the math.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, obviously, I'm kind of a noob when it comes to like.
You have a camera though.
Yeah, and,
so they're showing about $4,000 just for the body. So more than the 5D Mark III. 5D Mark III was like $3,000 for the body.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like once it gets to a certain point, the megapixels don't really.
Doesn't do 4K. Doesn't even stream in 4K like the A7S. So it's clearly a photo camera. It doesn't shoot super fast. I'm showing 5 bursts, which isn't that burst is like something you could do for a short amount of time. It's not you can't just do 5.
Mm-hmm.
Most of like Nikon and high, like a 7D and stuff, they do like 7 to 11, not burst, just like straight up you hold it down if your card's fast enough, essentially. So this is now what I have heard about this is the autofocus is just insane because you have like a full frame sensor with all those freaking pixels. Each one of those dots, pixels, you can have sensors on. Or bigger sensors, smaller sensors, whatever. So it's apparently 61 point high density autofocus. So essentially, quite possibly the best autofocusing camera for photography ever made. So it's definitely a photography lens. So I don't know that I'm too excited about it. Obviously it's Canon, so there's no way I'm diving back into them after I sold all my crap off.
So are you saying with the autofocus, it would be good for like a beginner then?
Yeah, and this is purely me looking at the stats. So, there's apparently 2 versions. There's a cheaper version as well, which I don't even know what the differences are, honestly. I just kind of wanted to like have a little dialogue about the super big sensor and like, are we getting to a point like, it's kind of like they're coming out with 4K TVs right now. They're trying to get those to catch on, which if you look at them, they are better. But until all the TVs are broadcasting in 4K and all the movies are coming out in 4K, it's not really worth it, and it's only marginally better. Now, all of a sudden, what's going to happen 5 years from now? They're going to jump to 8K. Like, is it worth it? Because I think there's kind of it kind of gets to a point where it flatlines and like at a proper viewing distance, unless you're talking about like a monitor or like 3D goggles, like we talked about last episode. It gets to a point where the pixel density doesn't really matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
For home use. You can have a 150-inch TV, which you're sitting, 20 feet away from or whatever, or however far you need to sit away, 10, 15 feet away. Is 8K even necessary? I mean, are you going to notice any difference? Maybe for that size. I don't know. So it's just an interesting thing with this camera, We'll see. It's interesting. I think it's cool that, and like I said, now Sony's going to come out with one. It's just going to be this thing. And it might be if Sony comes out with an alpha one, it might be an option for me because my camera only shoots 12 megapixels. It's a limiting factor. I can't use it for landscape photography like, in terms of cropping or whatever. So it might be an option for me if it's E mount and it fits everything I already own. So hopefully Sony shows up there. Okay, transitioning. Let's talk about Cine lenses. I gave you a little quiz last time. Do you remember anything about what we talked about?
Cine lens is like a special cool lens that's good for videography, whatever you call it, right? And like it has like special like a zoom thing, and it keeps the focus, which is really nice. Mm-hmm. So you can like punch.
It's parfocal and varifocal.
Okay.
So it's parfocal, not varifocal. So yeah. Some things that I also kind of learned, and it kind of everything is internal. There's when it zooms, it all happens inside. The lens stays the same shape, doesn't stick out, retract and stuff, which would not work for film rigs. Because we can't have the lens protruding out or whatever, and things like weather sealing, ruggedness in terms of like being able to use it in the middle of a blizzard and stuff like that. I'm not talking about mine specifically, the 28-1. I'm not sure if mine's that good, but the cinema lens quality is about like being able to be rugged, which I don't know why a photography camera lens wouldn't. Maybe because they're trying to keep it lighter. But cinema lenses are heavy and bulky because of they want everything internal, and they want the high resistance and resilience and longevity. So I have a question for you. So right now on screen right now I have what is a Canon Cinema primes. And the thing that are cool about these Canon ones is that I believe these are the first ones to kind of shift away from what's called a PL mount, which are a PL mount's a film mount. It's like a film camera uses like PL mounts.
Yeah.
So this is kind of transitioning to digital. A lot of the new digital, like the Red Epic and all the Canon cameras, and a lot of these cameras use EF mounts, and even Sony's can use EF if you use a converter. So it's more of the digital. These are the digital versions of what I would call cinema primes. So there's 5 here, and there's a 14, I think a 35, 50, 85, and 135. If you were to guess what makes a cinema, other than like what I just told you about the ruggedness and all the weather sealing and all that stuff, what makes a cinema prime different from a photo prime? Because you don't have the zooming, you don't have the protrusion, you don't have all that stuff. So why would you get these? There's an obvious answer, and then there's like probably 2 or 3 unobvious answers. So I'll let you get the obvious one first.
It's more rugged and the lens is fixed.
We already talked. I literally said that, not including that.
Oh.
So what specifically?
Well, it includes like the zooming features I was talking about earlier.
So these are primes.
Oh.
So there's no zoom. These are fixed focal lengths. This is a set of primes.
Yeah.
So number one, think about it. Number one, the easiest answer for what makes a cinema prime better than a photo prime. Number one answer. We're talking about primes, which have their own kind of connotation, or like, what do people use primes for? Colton's struggling with this one, guys.
Shoot. Well,
I gotta put him on the spot for this. You gotta know the right first answer. Easy. Why are they so expensive? Why are people willing to put this much money into their expensive digital Red Epics, which are $50,000?
Because it gives you that film look when you like when you focus on something and it's like the stuff is like blurry in the background.
You could do that with a photo lens. Okay, I will give you something that the blurriness looks better. But that's the sub level of something. The actual image quality is better. The glass is better. Come on, we're comparing $500 primes that Canon makes to $5,000 primes for just one.
So you're saying the cinema is like a better picture quality?
Yes.
I thought it would have been the reverse.
No.
Why wouldn't the photo one have a better picture quality?
Because they're willing to make a bigger lens. It's all about who are they. So a photographer might spend $2,000 to $5,000 on a camera, right?
Yeah.
A cinematographer, a movie maker might spend $50,000 to $100,000 on a professional camera. So they're gonna spend a lot more extra money and resources to make better lenses with better optics, better body, better everything. Technically top of the line, where a photographer might not really need it because they're taking one shot versus 24 frames per second. So, so 2 and 3, since you struggled to get one and barely got it, if at all. So 2 is, let me see if I can zoom in on one of these specifically. Okay, so here we have a 24 millimeter. So you'll notice here that this one actually has, I think, I want to say, let me turn this around if I can. No, I can't. Oh, here we go. I'm on B&H, by the way, which I use all the time for this kind of stuff.
What? They have 3D rendered representations of the lens?
Okay, so what do you notice right here?
There's like a lot of rings to move.
So there's 3 rings. For a prime that it doesn't zoom, you're strictly using manual focus for things. So that's the big difference between photo lenses when it comes to the focusing. Most photographers, and I wrote about this in my blog, FilmIn5D.wordpress.com. God, I get better at saying that. Mm-hmm. So I talked about this on my blog, is that most photographers rely on autofocus. They might use manual focus sometimes. It's just quicker. They want to get as many shots as possible. The cameras are so good. We just talked about that 61-point autofocus on those new cameras coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I use autofocus when I'm taking photos. Like pretty much strictly. Just like if I do manual focus, I'm not doing it on a person. Because the person might move, they might shift a little bit. Like if I'm doing shallow stuff, like I want to make sure that it gets done right, and autofocus is the best thing for that. Cinematographers almost exclusively, 99% of the time, use manual focus. So you want to make a lens that's going to adhere to those demands. And so what a Cinema Prime does is it has 3 rings. It has a ring, let's say, if you're focusing on a moving car that's moving fast and you want to focus quickly as it moves. Or maybe someone's walking. You might use the middle ring for, they're walking at 5 miles per hour. So you might want to use the middle ring to kind of adjust for them walking towards you or away from you, or keeping focus as they walk. Or you might want to use a macro focusing system for if you're doing a close-up on someone and they're kind of just like slowly doing this or whatever, and you just want to keep that focus super tight. You see it in films on YouTube all the time, like short films made by people who are using DSLRs. They're trying to do that shallow depth of field, and they got it at 1.4 full frame that's super hair thin. We even did this on our show where I was trying to keep focus on you, like eating or whatever, and it was like every couple seconds you were like getting out of focus, and I'd like overshoot it, undershoot it, whatever. We're talking about like a super hair fine kind of focusing. So those are the main things. And I would say most, if not all, Cinema Primes have 3 rings, a macro kind of, a person, and then like kind of a wide, each inch is a foot of focus essentially.
They just like took that idea from my head. Like as you're explaining that, I was thinking, how cool would it be if you had different rings that had different
so this is how they've been. And we talked about last time about how kind of mirrorless technology is kind of revolutionizing in terms of how expensive the lenses cost to make, and kind of how big they are in some senses. It depends on what lens it is, but for cinema lenses, how less internal parts they have to make to adhere to the less room that it takes to not have the mirror in there. So that's pretty much what I want to talk about. And so was that 2 that I mentioned? So the third thing.
Oh yeah.
The third thing, and you'll notice here. Let me go back to that. If I can, that actual initial shot. So this is a set of 5 primes, like we said, the 14, 24, 35, 55, and 135, which the 135 is often known as like Canon's best prime lens. 135 is super telephoto. You use it for video very rarely. That's why, my lens is a 28 to 135, because that's pretty much like the edge where you'd use it. Supposedly their most beautiful lens in terms of like out of focus background and how smooth it is and stuff. The last point, I guess, and why you'd buy a kit like this with all 5 is that the manufacturer actually goes out of their way to make sure that each prime looks exactly the same. The focus, obviously it's more telephoto. The focus will be different in the background, but these are all the same f-stop. I think these are all, I want to say 1.3 or something, which is pretty low. So they're all the same f-stop, which is hard. Most kind of like, it's easier to do that with a 50 than it is a 24 or a 135. Like you see all these Canon DSLR lenses, and one will be 1.4, one will be 1.8, one will be 2.8. Same with my lenses. It's hard to kind of get them all even. So they're even in terms of f-stop, in terms of how low you can push them, and then they're also even in terms of pure image quality. So as you're switching lenses for different situations, like, now I want to do a medium close-up on Matthew McConaughey, blah, 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 let me do this. Switch to my 85. It'll look exactly the same as your 50 in terms of the texture of the skin, everything. Just the background. The things that come with having the different focal ranges will change in terms of how close the background is, how far it is. So you can't get that with a photo lens. Photo lenses vary so much. Like I think when we were into Canon, I had a 35, 50, and 85, and I even had 100 at one point. The 100, 85, and 55 and 50 were all technically the same exact release time, they all had different, they had the different apertures and what f-stops and stuff. They all had distinct looks though. I remember I could never use my 100. I hated how my 100 looked. I liked 85 was sharp, and the 50 was my go-to just because 50 is pretty standard for full frame. So that's another thing with the cinema primes. They go out of their way to make sure that the final image will look the same across the board. So as you're switching lenses, the audience doesn't think that lenses are being switched.
Is that just like with that specific set, they're all the same?
Yes. So that's why you buy the set. You don't buy one from Canon, one from Zeiss, one from, Sony, whatever. You buy a whole set. So eventually, if they come out with a set for, say, $10,000 for the Sony Alpha line, I will get the full set.
What? 10 grand?
I'm not saying that's how much it's going to cost. That would actually be a good price, though. Compared to what? This one? 18,000?
I don't know. For Canon, I mean...
But, so those are the 3 points. Overall image quality, the kind of consistency across the line of the different ones, so you can use them interchangeably instead of relying on a single zoom for all your focal ranges, and then the 3 rings and having that precise, like the focus throw too. Like I talked about the focus throw on this cinema lens, it's 50% more. Wrote about it on my blog, FilmIn5D.wordpress.com. I can't plug my own shit. Anyways. So the 28 to 135 has about 50% more focus though than the 24 to 105 that we used all those years on FilmIn5D. So it's 50% more in terms of being able to fine tune the focus. And these have great, the throw on each of these is probably 180 degree, 300 degrees, 300.
Yeah.
So double mine, but it's a prime. And then you have 3 of them. So you have 300 for far away things, 300 for things that are kind of moving relatively slow, and 300 for things that are just right in your face. If you miss the focus, you can tell because the nose will be out of focus, the eye will be out of focus, or whatever. So yeah. Okay. You learned a lot. Cinema lenses.
What did you ask? Did I learn a lot?
Did you learn a lot just now?
Oh. Yeah, that was actually pretty interesting. Do
you feel like the impulse to go buy a cinema lens now?
No, it's too expensive.
But you can see it's like they are just better quality because the people they're making let's be honest, the budget for making Hollywood movies sometimes $300 million, minimum $1 million. Photographers, they got a couple 10,000 grand or whatever, and they go around, take photos, and maybe they take a good one or whatever, but there's not that much invested in how the quality of film. Crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, that's weird. It's definitely something I learned because
Okay, so moving on to a tutorial on 3-way color correction. I'm going to do a quick one for this one. I basically just want to tell you guys kind of why you might want to retake a look at 3-way color correction versus even fast color correction, to be honest. And so here I got a shot, and this was done on the Shogun. Let me turn this up to full. Hopefully it doesn't kill my computer. So we got a nice little shot. We've got some blue water. We've got some hillside, some grass, and some, lots of different colors here. Lots of dynamic range going on, lots of detail. So we're just going to throw on a 3-way.
3-way.
And I'm just going to briefly cover kind of what I usually do with 3-way. So I never mess with the output levels. The output levels is if you're trying to recover some highlights, it doesn't really work unless you're using raw photos. I kind of have there's no recovering. I'm not shooting in raw. It can be useful if something's really blown out and you just want to kind of take the intensity out of a shot, but you're not going to recover any of that. You're just going to make the whites less bright. It's still going to be white. Thank you. So all I mess with is the input levels, and I'll kind of like mess with the highlights a little bit to make things pop a little more. I'll adjust the lower the blacks to kind of help with the contrast if it'll actually grab it. This is insane. So you can see how what's doing to the contrast, crushing the blacks a little bit. Let's put it right about there for this shot. And then the midtones, if I kind of want to have it a little flatter, might push it up a little bit, but I think I want a little tiny bit more contrast, so I'm going to do that, and let's just double check that. Looking good. And so like I said, I usually skip output levels. I'm not even going to mess with the color right now. We'll do that in a second. Saturation. So this is where I kind of want to talk about fast color corrector versus three-way. So three-way, obviously fast is faster. Fast, you have, you have one, let me see if I have, so you have one coloring, the kind of the saturation, all the effects affect your shadows, midtones, and highlights across the board. Mm-hmm. So three-way is obviously going to be a little bit more fine-tuned. I honestly feel like the benefits of three-way are to the point where I almost never use fast color corrector, because unless I know that I really just need to do it super quick and like maybe to show a client just like a quick, and not a finalized version. You really want to be using three-way though, and here's why. Because instead of affecting the saturation for everything, boosting it all the way up or all the way down, I can maybe turn down the overall saturation just about 10% to make it a little bit more filmic. Let's say I really like the ocean, and I really want to make the ocean kind of stand out more in terms of blue, but I don't really want to see this kind of brown and these other greens and everything else, the shadow colors. So I'll boost the ocean a little bit. See right there, and that did not affect what would have happened if I boosted the whole thing. See how everything's kind of changing. So that's probably the main reason I like to use three-way, is to be able to affect the saturation of each individual, or the midtones, shadows, and highlights. This is probably a better example would have been, I like to use the ocean here because just to show how much more beautiful you can make it if you only control that, the midtones. This is probably a better example if you're doing an interview and you have someone with skin tones, and skin tones are almost always midtones. So let's say I want to make them a little bit more orange or colorful, or seem like they have a tan, or not pure pale white, but then I also don't want to boost the green leaves in the background, or I don't want other things to be like taken away from. I want the background to be what it is, the background, the backdrop. I want the focus to be on the subject. So that's another example.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty handy for Jersey Shore.
I'm sure they used it a lot. And then also you can change the hue of specifics, like midtones. Let's say I want to make the ocean. Let's go crazy with it. Just green or whatever, like some sci-fi movie or something. I don't know. So, for example, let's go over to fast color corrector, which I basically try to make kind of look the same, but you can see it just looks like a more video-y image, in my opinion, as I'm looking at it. Let me compare it to the.
Wait, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So when you're doing that three-way, how do you determine that you're only changing the color of the ocean?
So this is the disadvantage of just the built-in plugins, is I can't specifically select the blues and say, I can kind of finesse it, I can kind of, but I can't unless I put a mask over it. There's really no way for me to only adjust the blues, but the blues are in this particular shot are what I want to stand out, and they're the midtones. I mean, a little bit of this side wall right here is also kind of midtone. The highlights are obviously like the sky, and the shadows are obviously over here. The midtones are predominantly the ocean. So luckily in this shot, which is probably why I used it, I'm going to affect just the blues. So, but there's other plugins that you can use, like Colorista and stuff, which will specifically go after a certain hue and then adjust it from there. So you can say, oh, I want to go after the blue hue, and it'll only adjust like the contrast or the brightness of that. If you push it too much, it can get a little bit crazy. So back to what I was saying about fast color correction. So in here, I only have one saturation bar. So I can boost up the whole thing or lower the whole thing. There's no kind of picking out and choosing. So I guess to keep it short, I use it specifically. I don't use fast color corrector. I use three-way, and just to have that control specifically over the saturation and yeah. And the other programs like Colorista, which I've talked about on the channel, which costs money. I mean, it's about $200 to $400 for that. For work, we don't have that, so I use this. And yeah, I get by. I mean, there's certain limitations it has in terms of being able to adjust the contrast and stuff, but I'm surprised I don't see more people using this, to be honest. A lot of people are using SpeedGrade nowadays, which is built into Adobe CC. Honestly, if I figured out how to use that program, which is my goal by the summer, it just seems like another step. It's another program. I have to send this shot to another program to then do everything I just did in the program and maybe do a little bit better. It's like maybe this gets me to 90%. I should actually be showing the three-way. Maybe the three-way gets me to 90%, and then the SpeedGrade would get me to 99%. You know, it's kind of like a toss-up, but it might take 10 times longer to do in SpeedGrade. So even though it's called SpeedGrade, so I should probably learn how to do that program. Okay, so moving on, fun little tutorial. Illumi Room. You're going to talk about Illumi Room, and you have 1 minute.
1 minute. Get out of here.
I'm going to Google this, but I do have some questions for you.
Okay. Yeah, for anybody not in the know, Illumi Room refers to a technology being developed by Microsoft.
First question. Is this like an Xbox One only deal, or is it going to be on PS4 as well?
So when I'm saying Illumi Room, that's just like the
Connect
highest
version.
Yeah, it's the highest profile like name I could think of immediately.
But it must be patented. If Microsoft's working on it, they must have patented the idea. So it's not like PS4 is going to come out with their own Illumi Room PS4 edition.
No, I don't think they patented that idea of projecting the image all over the room. Because I've actually seen a Kickstarter for a separate product that's not related to the Xbox 360. Just this little thing that stands and is a projector, and then, you know, it'll turn your living room, you know, just like the Illumi Room, into, you know, a whole screen type of thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was rather expensive, so I don't think that specific thing is really going to blow up. But, I mean, my focus is not on the Illumi Room, but the technology of the Illumi Room, like the idea of projecting the image across the actual room and modifying the room based on these images that are being projected.
Do you have any movie examples of where this was like science fiction, like Minority Report, or I'm trying to think of movies where this might have been. Is there any movies where this is kind of like portrayed, like through technology, like Avatar or some shit?
Well, I mean, like a holodeck in Star Trek, right? Kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that. I mean, obviously, it's not really that great. Like, the image quality and stuff, because it's not like a white screen or anything. It's just, you know, putting the image there.
On the walls. Like, you don't even really have a projector. You don't have, like, a sheet up or anything to catch it. It's just...
Yeah, but if you watch, like, a demo of the technology, they do some interesting things. Like, there'll be a pulse, and it modifies how the room looks. Like, there's some tech demos of this technology, and it's really trippy. Like...
So it scans your room. It knows what your room looks like, and it knows how to. Yeah. Okay. And is it using a TV still as the main source? Yes. Okay. So the image quality is still good. It's just the actual Illumi Room process is just affecting the envelopment, or the not embellishing, but the kind of getting you into the media more.
Exactly. And so what I thought when I saw this was I thought it would be cool to apply this to movies and movie theaters. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought it could be like the next cool thing, you know, like how they have IMAX and they have 3D. So, you know, in a movie theater, you can have... Yeah, exactly. In a movie theater, you can have an actual set-specific room where there's no variables. Like, they know where everything in the room is going to be, and it can be highly customizable. Like, you can create some interesting experiences with a projection that goes not just on the movie screen, but all over the room. Huh. Okay. And I think this would be pretty cool, too, because, you know, nowadays with technology and all that kind of stuff, like, you know, I could just download a movie I don't download movies. Just watch a movie on my computer or at my house, right? Like, why do I want to go to a theater? Because of Illumi Room. See, you have this new, like, interesting movie theater experience that you can't experience at your house normally.
Dude, why aren't they doing this already? Tell me what's the limiting factor that's I mean, that sounds like a good idea. Like, movie theaters are struggling. Like, $12 a ticket. And, like, you got 4K TVs, 70-inch monitors, surround sound, 7.1 surround sound, like, all this stuff. Like, what? I mean, the movie theater's got to do something to kind of, like, a new attraction, kind of like 3D was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think probably kind of along the lines of like we were talking about before with the other technology I was speaking about, it kind of adds some work to, the people producing the movie. They have to create this extra stuff on the side.
I can't believe there's not just algorithms that can take the movie and kind of...
I'm pretty sure they could develop it, see? So I think
But not even that the director... Like, Christopher Nolan wouldn't have to do it himself for Interstellar. It would just be like, you put the movie gets processed through this thing, the projector, and it does it itself.
Yeah.
Essentially guessing, but guessing very accurately and very...
Yeah, and I think something like that would be plausible because, you're not looking for the best image quality or the most accurate things on the side of the screen because the main focus is on the screen.
Right.
It's more about just,
That's more the enveloping nature of Illumi Room, is the peripherals. You're not looking around like, ooh, you're just kind of like focused on the movie, which is the high quality print, and then your kind of stuff is going around you. So you kind of forget you're in a theater at that point because it's like you're not looking at the person in front of you texting, whatever, that you're focused on the movie. Pardon my French. And yeah.
So that was my first thought when I saw this. So I'm pretty excited for this technology. Hopefully they'll be able to do some cool things.
How far into the future? So this is the first one that you've done that's actually kind of like more... There's a release date for this.
Yeah, I'm not sure about when they're releasing the Illumi Room.
I know, but what would you guess, like based on what you've researched and...
Oh, it's got to be within the next few years. It's pretty, like, they have it there. It's just...
By 2020?
Yeah.
Mark it down, guys. Colton predicts 2020. Yes. There you go. All right, so moving on. We'll bring up IMDb to kind of fact check ourselves. So our last segment for today, and we have about 10 minutes to do this, is the film game I play quite often on long car rides. And let me just give you a little story. I am terrible with names when it comes to remembering who was in a movie, what their name is. Like, I could watch a movie, 5 years ago and say, oh yeah, I know that, I've seen them, I could know what movie they were in, but I don't know their name. So this film game will dramatically help you, and I swear by this, remember the names. So we're going to try and play. So, you know what 7 degrees of separation is. You've heard of this idea.
Yeah.
That everybody is somehow connected by 7 people in the entire world.
Yeah. Quick thing.
Have you ever heard of it?
Yes, a bacon number. Dude, oh man, the wavelength.
Well, that's they call it the 7 degrees, or this, I think it's the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon is what they refer to it as. I don't know
I'm not changing anything. Okay. I'm just...
We're testing some new audio levels so we could see if the podcast will sound better on iTunes, because we've been kind of messing around with it. It's been a learning experience and we'll be doing a podcast on how to make a podcast. Maybe a couple months from now, once we've kind of got out all the kinks. And yeah. So anyways, film car game. I don't even know what the name of this thing is. I learned it, I guess, while I was maybe even before film school, but I didn't really start playing it until the last couple of years. So, do you know what game I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do, and I'm horrible at
Okay, why don't you tell the audience what this game is?
Oh, well, I don't know the details, but I know it's like you name actors or something in a movie, and I don't know.
You name you name an actor and actress, and you try to connect them through movies that they've been in with other people.
Okay.
So, like, if I said Ian McKellen and Viggo Mortensen, I'd say, oh, well, that's easy. They were in Lord of the Rings together. And the more hard one would be Ian McKellen and Hugh Jackman. For example,
X-Men, right?
Same movie.
What are those X-Men?
Same movie.
Yes.
So I guess the rule we're gonna play just to kind of demo it for people and see if we can do this work. And the thing is, you want to work together, and then once you get to your goal, once you either go one way or you meet in the middle somehow, you have to do the whole thing over again. You have to say it all like really quick, as fast as you can. And the only way you can pick a movie is if you remember the movie's name and you remember the actor or actress in that movie, full name. You can't say, oh, the blonde haired chick from That 70s Show or whatever. You got to use movies. You can't use TV shows. So the one rule that we will make that will make it much harder on us is you cannot use any Marvel or superhero movies. There's no superhero movies. Because as we know, I mean, you got freaking the Avengers, you got X-Men, you got, all these freaking movies, Batman, that have all these actors in it and actresses, and it's just unfair. It's too easy. So we're going to make it a little harder on ourselves. So once you pick a name, and I'll pick a name that's kind of far away from it, and we'll try to connect these.
Halle Berry.
And I'll pick a guy. A guy that you would know. Hugo Weaving. See, Colton's already flustered right now. He definitely knows who Hugo Weaving is. He's got to think about it.
Oh, what? I know who he is, but what am I supposed to do now?
Who is he?
He's agent.
Okay.
He's the agent, and he's also the guy from Lord of the Rings with the eyebrows and stuff.
Yeah, I'm just making sure. So, okay, I already have an idea. So we're gonna say Halle Berry was in Cloud Atlas with Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks was in a buttload of movies. So now we've just opened the doors for yourself. You always want to kind of, the strategy is to kind of get to the actor that's been in all these movies.
Yeah.
With a lot of main, which Halle Berry's been, in X-Men and stuff as well, but we can't use it. So we'll say Cloud Atlas with Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks was in Saving Private Ryan with Matt Damon. Matt Damon was in Interstellar.
Wasn't Halle Berry in Cloud Atlas?
There you go. Huh?
Wasn't she in Cloud Atlas?
She was. You got it.
Yeah.
So that was a total setup.
Oh man, that was crazy.
Wait. You totally messed this up.
What do you mean? I totally messed it up.
So you said it wrong. I'll give you a chance again. So I said that Halle Berry was in Cloud Atlas with Tom Hanks.
Oh.
But you still have a chance. I thought you figured it out, but you apparently didn't figure it out. So I'm kind of ruining it right now. Halle Berry was in Cloud Atlas with Hugo Weaving. They were in the same movie together.
Oh.
Hugo Weaving was always the bad guy, the devil. Old Georgie.
What?
He was the nurse. Nope.
Oh yeah, he was the nurse. I totally remember that. That was funny.
Okay, so that was a setup.
Okay.
So go ahead and pick a guy. We gotta get one that's a little harder. So you pick someone. I'm gonna pick someone either much younger, or much older.
I don't know. This is shoot. Man, this is hard because I'm not.
Just
good.
pick one.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Everyone knows him.
Okay, Leonardo DiCaprio, and I will pick Judi Dench.
Who's that?
Judi Dench. She's been in where those movies coming out. I believe not the Grand Budapest Hotel, but the Exotic Marigold Hotel.
Oh.
She was in. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start off since she's the old British lady with white hair.
Was she in 007?
Yes, she was.
Oh.
So
See, that just from that description, I knew it was her. Man, that's crazy.
so like the goal is to kind of remember the names. So Judi Dench was in. We'll stay away from Casino Royale since it's probably easy. She was in The Chronicles of Riddick with Vin Diesel.
Wait. Who was she in Chronicles of Riddick?
She was the fairy godmother. I don't know. She was the random lady from the different world that could teleport and stuff.
Oh.
Anyways, you're ruining the flow. Judi Dench was in The Chronicles of Riddick with Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel was in Furious 7, which is coming out, we talked about today,
Yeah.
with The Rock. And who's your person again?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay, so Leonardo DiCaprio was in Titanic.
Yeah.
With what's her name? Can't use this unless we know her name.
What? What's she look like?
She has like a little mole right here. She won Best Actress. No? I don't remember her name either. I had a good direction to go with that anyways. Okay, Leonardo DiCaprio was in
Inception.
Yeah, it's too easy though. He was in what's the Shutter Island?
Yeah.
With Mark Ruffalo, right? Mark Ruffalo's.
What? Was he the?
Who was the sidekick in that? Was it Mark Ruffalo?
I don't think it was Mark.
Okay, whatever. So we'll go Inception. So he was in Inception with Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
How far was I? You gotta keep track of yours, and I gotta keep track of mine. This is taking too long. This is embarrassing.
Judi Dench was in
Chronicles of Riddick with
Chronicles of Riddick.
in Fast and Furious with The Rock.
The Rock.
The goal is to try to get it as short as possible. I usually try to make it interesting to go the long way around, but the goal is try to make it short. So I'm at The Rock, and you're at.
What do you mean? What am I at?
You're at with Leonardo.
Oh.
Come on.
Oh, I'm supposed to be doing something.
You're at Tom Hardy. So Tom Hardy is in Mad Max, which is coming out.
Oh yeah.
With Charlize Theron.
Yes. Oh.
Charlize Theron was in Prometheus with. Maybe I shouldn't go that way.
What about that one guy?
Yeah, but that one guy wasn't in. Man, this is embarrassing. Tom Hardy was in Inception with Leo. Tom Hardy was in. God, I just can't remember the names of his movies. He was in a movie with Jessica Chastain, and then we're done. But I can't remember the name of it. Remember the guy you hate with the bag over his head was in that movie?
Bag over his head.
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, freaking Shia LaBeouf. He had a bag over his head?
What was that movie called? It was like a super bloody Western movie. Yeah, see? Can't get it. Tom Hardy. We're stuck on Tom Hardy. We can go somewhere else with it. So Leonardo DiCaprio was in Inception with the chick you like.
Oh my gosh. What's her face?
See, we are killing it.
Are you serious right now? I know.
It's the pressure. It's the camera pressure. Remember our friend played her on the show?
Yeah.
Ariadne.
What's her name? What the? I'm seriously drawing a blank.
Anyways, we're moving on.
No, what's her name? Seriously, tell me.
No, stop.
No,
it's taking too long.
Tell me. You don't know her name?
No. I forget it. I'm terrible.
Oh my god.
This is what helps me.
We're both terrible.
Okay, so Leonardo was not in Inception at all. Screw that movie. Leonardo was in The Wolf on Wall Street with Jonah Hill.
Yes.
Jonah Hill was in Moneyball with Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt was in any number of movies, but he was in Inglourious Bastards. What are we trying to get to right now?
Fight Club.
He was in Fight Club with
Norton. Yeah.
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton. There you go.
Edward Norton was in. Gosh, we're just getting lost. I'm trying to remember. Oh, we're trying to get to Vin Diesel / The Rock. It's kind of hard. I feel like The Rock was in a movie with Jonah Hill. Am I wrong? Or Brad Pitt. How many? God, The Rock has been in so many movies. I can't remember what specifically he was in. He was in. He was in The Other Guys, briefly, with either Will Ferrell or Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we'll go Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg was in. What's that really good movie with Jack Nicholson and Matt Damon? Oh, and Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, so we have it.
Oh.
We got to figure out, is it A Few Good Men? No. The Departed. Okay, there we go. Leonardo DiCaprio was in The Departed with Mark Wahlberg, who was the jackass sergeant. Mark Wahlberg was in The Other Guys with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Dwayne The Rock Johnson was in Furious 7 with Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel was in The Chronicles of Riddick with Judi Dench. Done. We are overtime on the show right now.
Oh.
We are going to cut it short or long, but that's the film game. And usually, I would say that I'm usually much better at this. You got to work on your stuff. You got to.
Yeah.
We got to play this game more.
Yeah.
The main issue for me is I either forget the name. We still don't remember the name of that chick.
I've been trying.
Who I'm pretty sure is one of your favorites, and you somehow cannot
I
remember.
know.
Is it because she's lesbian now that that's why you can't remember her name?
No.
You don't remember her name? I feel like if I wait a second, I could remember.
Dude, could you please look it up? It's killing me.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Her name's Ariadne in Inception. Juno. She was in Juno. She was in that superhero movie that was a ripoff of Kick-Ass, and she totally dies. No?
Please.
Ellen Page.
Oh my gosh. I'm so annoyed. How did I not?
Okay, so that's going to be a wrap for our third ever episode. Colton's going to have to think about that one a little bit.
I can't believe I can remember Ellen Page. What the heck?
All right.
Oh
So, guys, last plugs here. Check out my blog at FilmIn5D.wordpress.com. When am I going to give you your own section of the blog? What do you even want to write about? Does anybody want to even read what you want to write about? I don't even know.
I'll write about all the cool, fun stuff
Okay.
everyone wants to read.
Yes, okay. We're going to go see Furious 7 because that movie's going to be awesome. Or It Follows.
I don't know. I'm kind of scared for that one.
Dude, I'm wondering. I don't want anybody to spoil it for me because I have friends in LA that have already seen it. I just don't want them. I know there has to be something that's not in the trailer that's like maybe how it ends. Can you remember how like The Mist ended? We talked about that last time. In terms of starts with an A?
Anticlimactic.
Anticlimax.
Oh, anticlimax, yeah.
Furious 7. I'll see it. I don't feel like I need to see it this weekend, but I will see it because that guy died. Paul
Walker.
Oh, you're right. All right, guys, that's it. Download on iTunes. Just search FilmIn5D. And subscribe if you're not subscribed on the YouTube channel. See you next time.
Bye.
All right, I think we're live. Okay, Murph, I love you forever is the quote for today.
What's that from?
We'll see.
Oh, I love your riddles, Aaron.
All right. Hey everyone, welcome to the FilmIn5D. Let's look at the camera.
Hi.